elsewhere, 3 AQs out of the ACC. This is all chalk. Stout and Law over on mat 1. And here on mat 2, we got Andy Smith from Virginia Tech. He beat Burrell 8-2. And we've got Nicholas Stemmet from Stanford. He had a tech fall against Duke's Bonsu. Took him just 3 minutes and 21 seconds for that.
Stemmet's been on a real hot streak coming into the tournament. He's won a bunch of matches in a row. He's a guy in his last year, he's working on getting over 100 wins in his career for Stanford, been a staple in their lineup at 197 pounds, and a guy with a lot of confidence in himself who's wrestling really well. Andy Smith, a guy who's been in the round of 12 for Virginia Tech, he's really a guy who wrestles with a ton of pace, comes back on guys in the third period, puts a lot of pressure on you. I'm really looking forward to this match.
Yeah, and Smith had big wins against Serber, and help me out on the pronunciation of this one, Rhino. I won't even try. The guy who's the returning All-American from
John
Rutgers,
Poznansky,
who just announced that he's no longer wrestling and retiring there. But those are 2 big wins there. So Andy Smith has had a little bit of a season for himself here.
Yeah, Smith surprised a lot of guys on the backside of the NCAAs last year, getting all the way to the round of 12. Just a guy who wrestles really, really hard. He's a guy who at times will give up the first takedown in a match, and then he'll end up majoring a guy or winning late in the third period just with the type of pressure and how hard he wrestles.
It's hard to beat the guy who never quits. I think Babe Ruth said that, Rhino. Stemmet wrestling for Stanford. Funny enough, I actually have trained a little bit with Stemmet when he was down in the Orlando area. In addition to that, he's a beach wrestling national champ and a world medalist, I believe. And then him and his brother actually this past year tried out for the WWE as well. So a little bit of history there with Nick Stemmet from Stanford.
Yeah,
great stuff.
Stemmet not afraid to put himself out there on a microphone or online to, had a little high-profile feud with a former national champion, Mr. Fast Twitch, but we'll see we may get that matchup again in the future. Stemmet with a nice shot.
Head inside off of that little elbow pass, Pop Perry style.
Swung through, Stemmet.
Good finish.
He's got 3.
You want to keep him flat here. There you go. You want to transition quick. The name of the game, especially in these high-profile matches, it's not only who can score the points, who can transition quicker to secure riding time, to secure getting back up and getting that escape point, whatever it may be. Transition wrestling is very, very important in March.
What you love about this tournament as well, there's no NC State wrestler in this round. There is a huge NC State kind of fan section, and they are all cheering for Nick Stemmet right now against Andy Smith, considering the team race.
Yeah, the Hokies and the Pack don't exactly love each other.
No, opposite ends of the gym here. Heard eruptions at different points in the day.
The enemy of my enemy is a friend, I think is how it goes, Rhino, is it not?
We've seen the Hokie fans cheering on Cavaliers today with a couple upsets from UVA. And you find strange bedfellows here when you're in the postseason.
What a treat to be joined by Jacob Casper, a.k.a. Julius Creed, as well as the Rhino Dylan Ryan here on mat 2. Semifinal action, which means the winners that you're seeing right here will be featured tonight on ACC Network for the championships from Cameron Indoor. Speaking of Cameron Indoor, mad props to the Duke women's basketball team that laid the hammer down on NC State, and they're your ACC champions, the Duke women. Carol Lawson, Jacob Casper, the sisterhood taking it down.
Yeah, I know Dr. Dylan Ryan here has been one of the biggest supporters along with his wife this season. And Carol Lawson, some Boston ties as well, correct?
Yeah.
So,
Celtics. Assistant coach for the Boston Celtics, an excellent franchise, most championships in NBA history. But
moving on.
Excited to...
But, Dean, you notice what I noticed? They're not having as successful of a year as the Cleveland Cavaliers are this year.
Let's go, baby.
Yeah, we'll plug that in
there. The Cavs are back.
We've got the anomaly in Jason Tatum now, so we'll see. Looking forward to the season, but a great season for Duke women's basketball. Been a long-time supporter and so happy to see them find that success, their first ACC title in over a decade.
And back to the action here on mat 2. Andy Smith got rode out long in that first period. I would have liked to see a little bit more of a first move, a commitment to a hard first move here to get off of bottom. You know, this is going to be a long second period otherwise, as riding time is now ticked to over 2 minutes.
Stemmet's really found something late in the year. Something's just clicked for him, because he's been really offensive from his feet, as we saw in the first period, getting to that right-sided single leg. He attacked it twice, got to it the second time, and finished. And he's been riding really tough in this winning streak stretch and just staying stingy in every position.
You know what's interesting is Stanford obviously has the furthest travel here. So I'm always curious, you know, flying as much as I do myself, how's that going to impact? But you look at Stemmet, and he's not breathing hard right now. You know, is he calm because he's been in these situations before? Sure, but something has to be attested to the conditioning that he has going into the year in this final form. And, you know, some guys are just Mr. March. You had guys like Chip Ness that would just show up come tournament time and end up on the podium year after year, and Nick Stemmet might be priming himself for a sort of breakout similar to that.
Yeah, Chip Ness, a guy who got the crowd behind him at Nationals, made it fun, just went out there and wrestled with no pressure and ends up on the podium for UNC, a guy who was, you know, routinely not ranked in the top 20, and then, you know, Friday night you'd see him in the semifinals.
Jacob, I agree, though. Stemmet looks comfortable.
I was just going to say, Stemmet riding tough here. You know, you look at his credentials. He's been to the tournament 3 times, and he's left empty-handed, and he maybe is saying, enough is enough, man. I'm not asking anymore. I'm telling you, I'm coming home with All-American honors with a national title this year. 197 is a weight that is fairly wide open still. I know Buchanan's had a great year and stuff, but, you know, anybody can make noise at that weight and do something truly spectacular.
Yeah, as we've seen, Andy Smith was in the round of 12 last year, 1 match away from being an All-American. And Nick Stemmet's got 3 minutes of riding time. He's been the real aggressor. Nice job by Stemmet getting to that single. And a finish on the inside. Smith tries to roll. Stemmet gets his hips back, gets that crossface, covers.
5th-year Nick Stemmet will start down out of Yorkville, Illinois. Came into the ACC Championships there first, as Stanford new to the ACC with a 98-45 record, and Stemmet with another point. Jacob, that doesn't work with my wife. The I'm not asking, I'm telling thing just doesn't work at all.
That was a nice knee pick.
Wow. And another thing I was pointing to Rhino here on the monitor is riding time's effectively locked already.
Yeah.
So there's an additional point on the board. So while it says 7-0, this is a bonus point match right now for Stemmet, and it's actually 8-0, and it's a major right now as he cuts, and we've got an opportunity to score even more.
I mean, he cut him. As you said, he's coming from across the country. Stanford's had a brutal travel schedule this year. They wrestled 3 times in 4 days over here on the East Coast during the ACC season, and then a few days later wrestled Carolina. Coming back coast to coast, and Stemmet's the one really pushing the pace on a guy like Andy Smith, who's known for pushing the pace in the 3rd period.
And again, something they would stress over at you know, NC State's RTC is stress plus rest equals growth. And those guys went through the stress of that grind. They probably went back, got as healthy as they could and rested up, worked on some things. And maybe this is the growth of the season then. And you see Nick Stemmet hopping levels here. While I do think with 45 seconds left, he needs to get another attack out there and try to secure the bonus point win here.
Stemmet did beat Smith on February 7th by a slim margin, 4-2. A little different story here, 7-1 with the riding time that Jacob Kasper told you about.
And you got to think, you're not only wrestling right now in this match, Dean. At this point in the season, you're wrestling for feedback come March.
And as I say, Stemmet might be gassed here.
And that's not the feedback you want come March.
He's effectively up 9-4, so it would take something real big.
Little re-attack there. Like a headlock.
That's going to be bonus.
Head out of there, though.
There's the bonus points for Stanford.
Yeah, a little bit gritty, a little bit ugly at the end of the day, but, you know, he found a way to get the bonus point on the board. Andy Smith battled hard to the very end. I love the headlock attempt. You know, Stanford, unfortunately, isn't in the team race, so it doesn't have quite as many team implications to give up that extra bonus point. But, you know, big nonetheless for Nick Stemmet going into postseason with a slimmer 4-2 win in regular season to have that confidence of a bonus point win of a guy that was round of 12 last year.
You see Smith not quite get his hips through on that throw attempt. Stemmet slides his head out, gets the score.
And that bonus point. Now it truly is Jacob Casper time as we're at 285. I say